So, welcome to Belfast Rail. My name is Jonathan Watson, and today's guest is Dean Karnazes. Dean, for people who may not familiar, is an ultra marathon runner. He has taken part in numerous events, such as running 350 miles in 80 hours and 44 minutes without sleep in 2005. He ran a marathon to the South Pole in minus 25 Celsius temperatures without snowshoes in 2002. He also ran 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 consecutive days back in 2006. He was named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Dean is an internationally acclaimed endurance athlete, winning ESPN, ESPY, I think it is, 3 times winner of Competitor magazine, Endurance Sports Athlete of the Year. Dean has also featured in various documentaries such as Stan Lee's Superhumans, and he's also an author. His first book, Ultra Marathon Man, if everyone can see it, was a top bestseller. And his new book, A Runner's High, which I've got here, so thank you, Dean, for this, is also out tomorrow. Actually, this is the 30th of June, so it's out tomorrow here. Dean, thank you very much for coming on. It's a real honor and privilege to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me on. I'm sending my best from California.
Excellent. Thank you, Dean. Dean, to get us started, I know you get asked this a lot, so I'm not going to ask the question, why do you run? I guess asked a lot of runners. But what I want to ask is, what do you get from your running? What do you get from it when you're out running, either as a training run or taking part in an event?
Yeah, running, I mean, is so simple, right? It's just putting one foot in front of the other at an accelerated rate, but it's also, profoundly powerful in that it forces you to confront your limitations. I think few other sports hold a mirror up to us the way running does.
Yeah,
So it's a way for us to challenge ourselves. It's a way for us to break through previously, thought limitations, and it's a way for us to, clear our heads. It's good for us physically and mentally, as well as spiritually.
yeah, no, excellent. Um, you you you've also been running for over 28 years. And I know in your first book, Ultra Marathon Man, you talked about you ran when you were at school, and then obviously kind of life got in the way, job, family, kids, and stuff. Um, I find this really interesting. Can you tell us a bit about how you got started? I know it happened on your 30th birthday, and I think you were out for a few drinks that night.
Yeah, it's a funny story. So I used to love to run when I was a young boy. In fact, my earliest childhood recollections are from running home from kindergarten. And I ran competitively when I was a freshman in high school. So my first year of high school, I was on the cross country team and we won the championships. And then I thought that's about as far as I'll take my running career. So I stopped running altogether at age 15.
Yeah,
Had no more desire to run. And then I went, I finished high school. I went to university, and then I went to what's called graduate school, and then I went to business school. So I got a business degree, and I had a very comfortable corporate job in San Francisco. And on the night of my 30th birthday, I was in a pub with me mates, doing what a lot of us do on our 30th birthdays.
yeah,
I was drinking with them, and at midnight, I told them I was leaving. And they said, well, hold it, where are you going? It's your 30th birthday. Let's have another round of tequila to celebrate. And I said, no, I'm going to go run 30 miles right now to celebrate instead. And they looked at me and they said, but you're not a runner, you're drunk.
yeah,
And I said, I am, but I'm still going to do it. And I walked out of the bar, and I'll never forget, I didn't even own running gear, but I had on these, silk boxer shorts, these silk underwear. So I peeled off my pants and just threw them down the alleyway and stumbled off into the night in my underwear, knowing that there was a city 30 miles away called Half Moon Bay. And I thought, just run to Half Moon Bay.
that's
And
right.
that's how I got started
Yeah.
running again.
What
Yeah.
what was it that kind of sparked that? Was it just a kind of there's got to be more to this than the job and stuff? Was it?
Yeah. I kind of thought I followed the prescription for happiness, at least in Western culture. You get a good education, you get a good job, you get a nice paycheck, you have, stock options, all those perks, and that will lead to happiness. but it wasn't happening.
Yeah,
I was kind of miserable. I didn't feel like there was any struggle in my life. There was no hardship, or everything just seemed to can't come easy. And I think a lot of ways I was so comfortable, I was miserable. And I just remember how running used to test me, and how I used to feel really alive. It used to make
yeah,
my my fingertips tingle, and the pain, and all of those things. So I think that I long for some of that. And the bad tequila compelled me to act out my urges.
yeah. 'Cause I think that's what people. I think if people don't run, for anyone who's watching this, maybe don't run, maybe they find this hard to understand. Like for me personally, if I'm having stress or whatever, when I go for a run, you can really a lot of anger builds up in all of us. You can actually take it out on the run. So you almost like you're running and you can kind of vent all that into your actual running. And you come back feeling really mellowed out and completely at peace, which is a nice feeling. Um, that starts your journey into running. And I know your first book kind of documents that journey. Um, obviously you had a full time job, you had family as well. Um, and this is probably a question a lot of people kind of ask: how did you fit your training in, especially when obviously that ignited that fire? Um, and I think you were then deciding to go, if I'm pardon my memory, I think it was the Western Trails Marathon. That was the first, that was the big one you were wanting to go for. How did you fit your training in? Obviously, keeping down a full time job, with a lot of responsibility, plus family as well.
Yeah, I made a lot of sacrifices. I always put my family first, so I didn't want to deprive them of my presence. So I would get up, at three or four in the morning, and a lot of times I'd run a marathon before breakfast. So I'd
Okay.
do my training run. I'd come home. I'd make breakfast for the kids, get them off to school, and then I'd do some cross training. And I would go to work, and while my colleagues were going out to lunch, I'd literally put on my running gear and go for a quick 1 hour run, and just sponge off in the sink and put my suit back on. So I did those things that a lot of folks can relate to when
Yeah.
you start getting into running. You it changes who you are and the way you operate. So I didn't sleep a lot, but it was worth it.
Yeah. And I know obviously we'll touch on your new book in a second, and it's obviously about the process a lot of us go through, whether it's uh, people are martial artists or whatever. We obviously eventually we grow old, and it changes our training. How much has your training changed since those early days to now? Like what's different, or is it pretty much the same?
No, I mean it's changed because the what happens as you get older is you lose your speed. You
Yeah,
get slower. So I have to train twice as hard to run the same pace that used to come easy to me when I was a younger man. And so I'm doing a lot of really intense sort of speed work. And these are shorter durations. So these are only, maybe 5 mile runs, but, at a pace that is, anaerobic almost the whole time. So it's really miserable. It hurts, but it really, you really feel alive when you walk back through that door. And it doesn't take a long time. I mean, you're talking about, you know, 35 to 45 minutes of just suffering. But I do a lot of that where before I never used to do so much speed training.
yeah. And one of the things and I think it's pretty good is I know a lot of people comment on it as well. Um, your physique, you've always been able to keep yourself like. And I say this with respect to a lot of people, so nobody watches, please don't be offended. But you see a lot of kind of high level runners. They look, people notice they look very terribly emaciated. Um, how how are you able to keep yourself looking pretty much almost like pretty much like a modern day athlete. You always you had a great physique, but you're pulling off these long, 24-hour endurance events. How did you keep that balance from looking like an athlete to that kind of emaciated look? How do you achieve that basically?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is that I'm 100% Greek, And, to me, having an overall fit body is important. I think, to your point, a lot of runners just run and they end up looking very, you know, gaunt and not healthy. I mean, I don't think that's a healthy state, honestly.
Mm.
And, I was more interested in longevity. I've been in this game almost 3 decades and I wanted to last. And I thought
Yeah.
to last, you're going to need some muscle. You're going to need some sustenance to your whole physique. So I do a lot of cross training. I don't just run. I constantly work out throughout the course of the day, just so I, keep up my body mass. And it's important to me. I want to, not just be blown away when a gust of wind hits me. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of been my philosophy all along is, be strong overall
Yeah.
and run as hard as you can. And, certainly it's pretty well known that the more muscle you have, the harder it makes your running because, your heart has to work harder to pump blood to all your muscles. But I still didn't think it was worth losing all that muscle mass, especially my upper body, just so I could run a bit faster.
Yeah. And that ties in with obviously injuries. Have you suffered many injuries, or has that kind of cross training helped stave them off a bit?
Yeah, it's funny. In 3 decades of hitting the road pretty hard, I have never had an injury. I mean, I've lost toenails, but
Okay,
I've never had an overuse injury from running. I've been pretty
excellent.
blessed in that regard. And I think, to your point, I think cross training is really vital as far as injury prevention goes.
Yeah, no, no, definitely, because I think um, I seen very much within the fitness industry as a whole, from 20 years ago to now, there's a lot more. There's more stuff even creeping into the running world. I forget the name of the guy who did the forget his name. He did the Supple Leopard. He produced another book for runners, and basically almost like MOT in your body, or maintain a good maintenance so you can run for longer and prevent injuries. With kind of touching on the performance side, I know before we start recording, I've mentioned about this question. You featured in quite a few documentaries. You featured in one documentary, I think it was National Geographic, with Wim Hof and a few other people. And I know then the Stan Lee, before he passed away, they did a documentary series called Stan Lee Superhumans, and you featured in that. Um, you've ran on a treadmill for 24 hours, things like that. They did a blood test and they noted that the lactic acid in your body. So if someone like myself was to jump on a treadmill and try and do that, my lactic acid would build up. Literally, my body seizes up and I can't continue. If anyone who's watching this, lactic acid is a byproduct of exercise, which causes pain the next day. They find that your body seemed to be able to cope with that lactic acid, so almost kind of it it moves. It had a better way of getting rid of it than everybody else. I know this may be kind of a silly question. Did they ever explain? Was that purely from a science point of view? Was that adaptation or was that genetic? Um, for that reason?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question, and the ability to buffer lactic acid or rid lactic acid from your system improves for any athlete. So anyone who's doing a lot of cardiovascular exercise, they get improvements in their ability to buffer lactic acid. Um, but they found that I had this astronomical ability that was even beyond the most trained athletes, and they're not really sure if it was genetic or what it was from. My mother is from an island in Greece that's one of the, I don't know if you've heard of the blue zones. These are the 7 areas across the world where the indigenous populations live
Okay,
to be the oldest. So
right.
on this island, there's the highest concentration of what they call centenarians. So people that live to be over 100 years old. And not only do they live to be over 100 years old, they're fit.
Yeah,
They still hike around the mountains, in their hundreds. So they think there might be a genetic component to it as well.
excellent. Yeah, no, because I find that as I said to you at the start, I find the documentary really fascinating. And that was one of the frustrating things because I've got a very my mind would kind of if I hear something, I get quite inquisitive. I like to kind of follow it through. When I can't do it, it kind of eats away at me. So thank you for answering that. Um, you going into your new book, A Runner's High, which I said it's out in America at the moment, and it's being released here in the UK and Ireland tomorrow from the 1st of July. How did that book come about? I know you've wrote quite a few books, Ultra Marathon Man, which kind of starts your journey, and then if I remember right, it was the 50/50, which kind of covered the 50 states and 50 days. So how did the A Runner's High come about?
Yeah, Ultra Marathon Man was kind of a coming of age book. It was about, learning about these crazy 100-mile foot races, and these ultra marathons in the most extreme, elements on earth, like the Badwater Ultra Marathon across Death Valley. So it was kind of, me getting into it, if you will, and learning about these things and wanting to take on these challenges. And A Runner's High is, a couple decades later, how are things going? Am I still going? Am I still holding up? How have things changed? Is the fire in my heart and still there? Is the flame still bright? Is the passion there? And how has it been? Getting from ultra marathon man to, still trying to do 100-mile foot races. How has that impacted your life, your health, your family, and what lessons have you learned along the way? To me, A Runner's High is is a book that anyone can pick up and
Yeah,
relate to. It's not. I mean, it's kind of my journey, but I didn't want it to be about just one guy. I wanted it to be something where any runner can kind of nod their head as they're reading, going, "Oh, I know exactly how that feels."
yeah.
So, hopefully, I achieve that.
Have you, in your journey so far, have you ever reached a point where you kind of have questioned yourself? Why am I keep doing this? Have you ever been close to quitting, if I may ask?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a sport that eats its young.
Yeah,
There's no resting on your laurels, and I've seen it time and time again where people come onto the scene, and they win a bunch of races and they might be there for a couple of years, and then you don't hear about them. Then
yeah,
someone new comes on the scene, so you really don't hear about people that have lasted for many decades in this sport. And that to me, having the perseverance and the longevity and the grit was really important to me. I mean, endurance is about enduring, and I always wanted to endure.
yeah. No, no, definitely. The I know I was reading the book, I know you've touched on this. It's actually came up quite a lot throughout your books, even the documentaries. I think there's one I watched about you. They were in your house and it showed you I think your wife and your kids were going to bed and you were getting ready to go out for a run. And people kind of think running, especially like what you do, it's very much solo, but it's not. You have obviously the support of your family, and that features a lot in the book. How important how important has your family been, especially your father and your mother and all, and your wife and your kids been with your journey and supporting you?
Yeah, I mean, they've been there from the very get-go, and you're absolutely right. No runner's an island, and as you know, running becomes part of your identity. It's just a really powerful force in your life, and that impacts everyone around you. Your friends, your family, your spouse, your parents. So I thought, if I'm going to write a really honest book, you have to talk about that dynamic.
Yeah,
And running is very polarizing in that regard. I mean, I've seen relationships blown to smithereens when one partner starts running, and I've seen just the opposite take place. It brings people together, and thankfully in my situation, it's brought my family together. So the kids have, I when I ran 50 marathons in all of the 50 US states in 50 days, they were there. They got to see, and they're 9 and 11 years old. They got to see all of America, and very few
excellent.
people get to do that. And
Yeah,
they've been to Europe multiple times, South America, Australia. So they've traveled with me. And, one thing I've really done purposefully is when we go to these runs, I really make it fun. It's not just about dad, like dragging them to some race out in the middle of nowhere and, multiple nights without sleep. I plan a lot of activities, sightseeing and fun activities as well. so they would look forward to it.
Excellent. Yeah, because I think that's the other thing. I think people forget is when if even just the average Joe or average Jane start a training program or start running, you're yes you're helping your own improve your own health and stuff like that, but you're also being a role model. Even if it's just someone's dad going out and doing like a couple of 10Ks a week or something like that, you're setting a good example at home to hopefully inspire your kids to go on and do things. As your kids expressed an interest to follow in your footsteps as such?
No, I mean they both run and they both enjoy running, but they don't compete. They just run for the enjoyment of running itself,
Yeah,
which really makes me happy. I mean, I didn't have any plans for them to follow in my footsteps. I thought, I want them to forge their own course through life, and their passions are elsewhere, and that's just fine with me. I had no preconceived notion that I wanted my son or my daughter to become ultra marathoners.
yeah. Um, during a couple of questions with regards to your time running, what was because I've know in your books there was one I think you were out on your race and you went blind and you had to you literally couldn't see, you had to lie down, and then I think after you fell asleep on the trail and you recovered and managed to complete it. What would be, other than that, obviously, what would be one of the weirdest experiences that you've experienced in your whole time running?
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen many hallucinations. From uh, snake eyes, that are right in front of me that end up being a car, many miles away. I've seen dinosaurs in the desert. I've seen little like garden gnomes
Okay.
on the side of the road that ended up being mailboxes. When I ran past, I realized it was a mailbox. I've had many animal encounters with bears and snakes, wombats when I was in Australia. So I've seen a lot and experienced a whole lot. In the book, there's a story as well. As I was running across America and I got invited to stop at the White House, which I thought was a prank call. I thought why is the White House calling me? But the First Lady, Michelle Obama, she wanted to invite me over to lunch as I was running across the country. So that's a pretty surreal experience that I talk about in the book.
Excellent. Yeah, that's right. And what was it like, if I may ask, what was it like being at the White House? I know that's maybe a silly question, but what was that like?
It was crazy. I mean, I hope I captured the craziness of it in my book, but I'd been running for 65 days on my own. So, I was running 40 to 50 miles a day, showering sometimes, but mostly not. You know how that goes. I mean, just
Yeah.
you run, you sleep, you get up, you run. And the next thing I know, the gate of the White House is opening up and the Secret Service is saying, run right through here. So I literally ran down the hallway of the White House. And, the White House is obviously a big property. But I'll never forget, I'm running down the hallway and people are cheering for me. And then I kind of come to this press secretary and she says, hang a left. She's waiting out there for you. So I hang a left, and out on the south lawn of the White House, there's Michelle Obama. And I come running up to her and I'm like, what do I do? Do I kneel? Do I kiss her hand? Like, how do you greet the First Lady? And she opens her arms. She says, Dean, it's such an honor to meet you. Can we hug? And the first thing I'm thinking is, oh my God, I haven't showered in 65 days. But she was amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. No, that's awesome. Um, if I can ask again for anyone maybe just watching, again, I know you get told this a lot. You're one of my biggest inspirations for running. I over a decade ago, I remember being in Edinburgh in Scotland. I was there for training, and I went in the Waterstones and found your book, and that's kind of how you end up on today. What advice? Where's a good place for someone to start training, or even just to start that journey to taking part in an ultra marathon? Where would be a good place to look, or where would you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people to start from the ground up. So invest in a good pair of shoes. As you know, I mean, footwear technology in the last couple of years has improved so dramatically, and you know the cushioning with shoes now has really changed things. So I would say invest in a good pair of shoes, and then start running for time, not distance. Just when you're just getting started, just try to run for 3 continuous minutes. And I
Yeah,
know to you and me, that's not even the beginning of a warm up. But for someone who's just starting out, it's hard to run for 3 continuous minutes. Typically, they'll go out and run really fast for a minute and a half, and then they'll be gassed and they'll start to walk. But the idea is just to run continuously for 3 minutes, and be exhausted when you hit 3 minutes, and then work up to 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then see if you can run for 15 continuous minutes. And once you can do that, then try to run a 5K, which is 3.1 miles. And I think that's a pretty good ramp up for someone who's just getting started.
yeah. No, that's great. That's great advice because I suppose that's pretty much the key is being able time on feet, basically getting used to being on your feet for a long time. Um, Normally I ask the guests this, and it's kind of a new question that kind of brought in. What would be your mission statement? If you had to put it down, that's maybe a deep question to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a Portuguese proverb that says, "Who runs for pleasure never tires." So I think if you can find joy and fun in running itself, if running can become play, you're going to enjoy it a lot more. So learn to love running for nothing other than running itself. Sometimes don't wear a watch. I know a lot of us, train really hard, and we measure and quantify every single run, but that can lead to burnout. So some days, just don't wear a watch. Try a new route. Never, run the same route twice. Running's a great way to explore places. So, the other thing is that people say, should I train with the group or should I train solo? I think that's a question for you to answer. I'm very much an introvert, so I like to train solo. But I know a lot of people that are extroverts, and they really love training with other people, and they like the accountability of having a set training run on Wednesday and Saturday mornings. So look inside you and see what your demeanor and your disposition's like, and follow a training routine that's consistent with that.
Yeah, no, excellent. Thank you. Um, what uh, what what would be one of again, kind of this kind of continue on from that? What would you want people to kind of take um, away from your own story? Um, if I could ask that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a quote, find what you love and let it kill you. So, there's nothing wrong with just dedicating yourself wholeheartedly to your passion. And my passion is running, and it's people might say, well, it's just running, but it's who I am. It's what I love. And I tell people, if you love to basket weave, be the best damn basket weaver there is. Throw your heart and your soul into it, and you'll make a go of it. So just find what you love, and pursue it to the utmost.
Yeah, no, excellent. Because again, for anyone who's watching, you've managed to make one pretty much your job, your kind of dream job as such. So definitely. Uh, we're near the end of the time. One of the things I want to ask is what's next? Is there another book coming out, or is there any events you're taking part in?
There's always another book. I mean, there's a saying in author circles: you're only as good as your next book. So the book's got to keep, and it's funny because writing a book is a it's a difficult process, and it takes a long time. And a lot of people have read, my most recent book like in one sitting. They get into it, and 6 hours later they close it, and they send me an email and say, "God, I love that book. When's your next one coming out?" I'm like, "Oh man."
No pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But so I'll do that, and I'm scheduled to run across Australia in August.
excellent.
So hopefully, I got a special visa to go to Australia, and hopefully that'll happen. So I run across Australia in August, and then I'm supposed to go to Greece in September to run 10 marathons in 10 days to celebrate the bicentennial of Greek independence.
Excellent.
So my schedule is still it's filling up. I'm really glad
Yeah,
that COVID seems to be lessening and more and more. So we'll see when travel opens back up. I'd love to get over to Ireland, of course. I miss
Yeah,
it dearly. Yeah.
it would be good to have you here. The one in Australia, is that for like a charity, or is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's for Australia. Australia's really suffering a mental health crisis right now,
Okay.
especially with youth. So it's for a youth charity that supports suicide prevention and mental health education.
Yeah, no, that's perfect because I think that I can't imagine anything more fitting than running because the benefits of running is for mental health. So and it'd be good for recognising that. I think it's a big issue is starting to creep up all over the place. The issues of mental health. No, excellent. Um, well, but with regards to writing your books, do you often write them in your head, kind of you write a one, then write them down on a piece of paper when you come back, or what way does that process kind of take?
Yeah, I have a digital recorder and I do a
Okay,
lot of my writing when I'm running because, as you know, and as every runner knows, we have some of our clearest thoughts when we're out running. So I dictate into my recorder, and then when I come home, I type up my notes. I just put it in an earbud and listen to my dictations and type up my notes, and that's the way I do a lot of my writing. I mean, people say, "Wow, it's a really authentic voice," that you have in your books, and I say that's because I'm running when I'm writing them.
excellent. No, that's great, Dean. Just to wrap up, Dean, if someone wants to get in touch with you or purchase the book, as the Runner's High, it's out tomorrow here in UK and Ireland. How can people get in touch with you or follow your exploits?
Yeah, I'm not hard to find. I mean, someone told me if you type in Dean in Google, I'm the first person that comes up. So I mean, yeah, if you just Google my name, I've got a website. I'm on social media, and thank you for talking about the book, Runner's High, which is indeed released on the 1st of July, and it's available at Amazon and all booksellers. So it's pretty easy to find.
No, excellent. And again, anyone watching this, I definitely recommend to check out Dean's books. They're available on Amazon, Waterstones, and um, as we were talking about, it's when you're reading about yourself, you do transcend not just running. When you can put that into any sport, whether it's cycling or whatever, there's a lot of deep lessons there, and your first book's very entertaining, and so is the other ones, and I really enjoyed Runner's High. So I definitely recommend anyone watching to purchase them and get stuck into them. Dean, thank you very much. I know you're a busy man, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was an honor getting a chance to chat with you. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me on. It's been a lovely conversation, and I hope one day we can share some footsteps together. That'd be even
Yeah,
better.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. No, thank you.